Hello, I'm Curtis George, the Technical Program Facilitator for Computer Science. For this video, I'm going to go over the best practices for giving feedback and grading of the Codio assignments and exercises. The first thing I would like to cover is grading the Codio challenges. When grading run the code challenges where there are a few challenges. An example of this is in Module 4. There are three challenges. There's a list challenge, a 2D list run the code challenge, and a list and dictionaries challenge. The problem is when grading this, and just to be consistent, I'm going to go over a method of how this should be graded. You'll also notice that there's no rubrics. The best way to do this, and I'll show you an example here. We have the student C basically got a 100% on lists. The student also got a 33% on 2D lists and an 80% on dictionaries, lists and dictionaries. So kind of the way to handle this is, and the way to look at this is, if you'll notice in the Module 4, there is a total of 75 points. So in order to grade this, you should grade towards how many points the student actually achieves. I know there are a few instructors that take the average of the modules, and if you look at this and add these up, 80%, and then of course 33% and the 100%, and the average of those three would be about 71%. If you look at the overall points, the student achieves 60 out of 75 points for this module. If you divide 60 by 75, you actually get 0.8 or 80%. So there are two different ways you can do this. So we have to set a way for everybody to do this. So to make it easier for you and better for the students, the way to do this is to basically grade on how many points the student actually gets through this module 4 in this example, and divide by the overall points, which is 75 points in this case. So if you're doing the average, you would have gotten a 71, which is an okay way to do it, but it's not consistent. So in order to be consistent, we should just add all the points that the student achieved during this module and then divide that by the overall points. And mathematically, that'll probably be easier on you anyhow, instead of trying to figure out the average of each percent for each module. Some other reminders. If we go to Module 5, that's where we are supposed to really start grading the finals. In this module, there are some answer keys for this, for the different scripts. Of course, this is basically one way to do it, but it's an answer key and it works. You can use this answer key either ahead of time, to perhaps look at the drafts before they submit, the student submits their finals, to give them try to give them good feedback. But basically, I wanted to just show you where this was. Another thing about Module 5 is when they actually turn in their first final. I think this would be probably a good time, in fact probably before this time, in an announcement or an email, to let the student know that there's a difference between a draft and a final project. Just make sure that they understand through an announcement or other means that they need to turn in a Word document in addition to their code, their cleaned up code. And this document is going to be a reflection of their experience as far as what they did in the code and any problems that they ran into and that sort of thing. When grading and using the rubrics, there's a word that is used throughout the rubrics, identify. It's kind of weird, I guess, but basically what they're expecting is the student identifies the uses and fundamental, in this case, types of variables in the code, and explains using comments. So they want you to make sure the student understands, what's being actually asked for in the assignment, and that the student understands where it is and what it is. The rubric is really that's kind of graded to make it easier. Worded to make it easier for you to grade by letting the student provide comments to justify their code. But the idea is that you should really look at the student's code as well as their what's expected in the comments, feedback if there is a misconception in the student's comments or code. Also, if basically the idea is to make sure that their code is correct. All the code is really short. It's 5 to 15 lines at the most. It would be probably beneficial for the student if you can take the code and run it and make sure everything works and runs and everything looks like it should. Another thing that you'll notice that in the rubrics, a specific number of items. This can be interpreted. The basic idea was that we want to identify 3 uses of variables. In the rubrics, what we're trying to do is make sure that the student understands that they're providing these 3 types of variables. I know that sounds confusing, but later on when we talk about loops, when we ask for 4 different loops or 4 different uses of expressions or anything like that, then it becomes difficult for the student to achieve that in their code, because the code, depending on their solution, may have less than 4 loops, 4 different loops, or 4 different types of expressions, or 3 different types of conditional statements, or whatever's being asked for. We are actually fixing this in future rubrics, or in fact we were trying to fix it for EW6, but kind of be very lenient as far as that goes. As long as the student has good code and it's working code and it's that we are asking for, then that's probably good. And make sure that they also have the comments, identifying the different parts of the code, and that would be sufficient. And I think that's all I have for now. Just have a great term, and remember, feedback is important to these students that are new to programming. And we'll talk to you later. Thank you. Bye-bye.